So if you know anything about Egypt, it's probably because of the pyramids, the pharaohs, the mummies, the tuk-tuk, the desert. You know, if you've heard about Egypt, you've definitely heard about at least one of these. And side note, almost all of these things that I just mentioned earlier probably won't exist if it weren't for the works of many people that are now long gone. Not just pharaohs like Khufu or Ramses or Khafre, but also to the potentially millions of people whose names has been long forgotten. You know, the ones who built the pyramids, who defended Egypt as soldiers, who formed the crowds that are eaten by millions. You know, your average Amenenhat. But another equally important group of beings that doesn't really get that much attention are the animals that lived in ancient Egypt, whose by simply existing may have profound impact on Egyptian society in general. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be talking about for the next 12 minutes. And yeah, that's enough the intro, let's begin. So firstly, history. Egypt has been around for at least 5,000 years. Meanwhile, animals have been around for 665 million years. So I think it's safe to say that animals are actually the real OGs in Egypt. Take that, Norma. And one of these animals were the Nile crocodile, which can be found well along the Nile, which is the longest river in the world. However, some people might say it's actually the Amazon River that's longer, but regardless, the Nile crocodile is 3 to 5 meters long and weighs upward of 750 kilograms. Or for the Americans watching this video, that's approximately 3,488 Big Macs. Usually, Nile crocodiles eat mostly fish, birds, zebras maybe, humans sometimes. Oh, speaking of humans, yeah, the crocodiles do attack humans sometimes, it's annoying. So, how did everyday Egyptians think about them? Well, Egyptians fear crocodiles because obviously, but also the Egyptians respected crocodiles because of their power. I mean, these guys have the highest bite force of any animal. Can you not respect these guys? The Egyptians mainly worshipped crocodiles to ward off evil and maybe they won't get attacked by them again. And the Egyptians particularly worshipped the god Sobek, who was often depicted with a head of a crocodile. They even got a goddamn city named after them. Speaking of the city named after them, in Crocodilopolis, there was a temple with sacred crocodiles inside, and it's essentially a court or some shit, I don't know. And while Egyptians can worship crocodiles as much as they like, at the end of the day, crocodiles are still fierce predators. Another fierce predator that once from ancient Egypt and were just as revered as crocodiles were lions. Keyword once, as lions are today extinct in Egypt. Specifically, a subspecies of lions called Panthera leo or Barbary lion. But unlike their cousins in South Africa, these Egyptian lions were distinct for their larger size, their thick dark mane, and heavier weight. While the average ancient Egyptian rarely interacted with lions, which is probably good for them, Egyptians did worship lions just like the crocodile. For example, in Egyptian mythology, the goddess Sekhmet was the goddess of war and medicine, and portrayed with the head of a lion, and also the twin lions Aker, who represent yesterday and tomorrow. Egyptian high society, however, has a closer relationship with lions. Pharaohs in particular sometimes kept them as pets to guard palaces and often associate themselves with lions to symbolize their power and dominance. It's like, what's up guys, it's your boy Senator the First here, and today me and the boys are going lion hunting because I need to show you guys just how strong and gigachat I am. Okay, stop recording and you guys go ahead kill those lions over there. Okay, hand me the sword. Okay, thank you. And start. Look guys, I just killed 2 lions with my own hand. That's just how strong I am guys. You guys should worship me or something. Sadly, due to destruction of habitat, overhunting, and their common use in Roman gladiator games, have severely contributed to the decline of Egyptian lions. And by the Middle Ages, they have completely disappeared in Egypt. But while lions can avoid extinction in Egypt, a mini version of them have managed to not only survive in Egypt till today, but also become the most popular animal in the world. I'm talking, of course, about cats. And ancient Egyptians do love their cats. While many cats today are descended from some Egyptian cats, Egyptians themselves weren't the first to domesticate them. Cats were likely first domesticated somewhere in Mesopotamia around 9,000 years ago. There's a famous fun fact about cats saying that it wasn't humans who domesticated them, it was actually themselves. See, when humans began to figure out that they can make infinite food out of some seeds on the ground, that's called agriculture, they would store these extra foods in food storages, which was found to be very appealing to rodents like rats. And cats in turn found this quantity of rats to be very appealing, and so they began to camp close to human settlements. And humans just let them be because they are eating the things that are eating what they are eating. Well, that's a lot of eating in one sentence. Soon, some of these cats arrived in Egypt, where these cats gained extra notoriety by fighting off venomous snakes from human houses. And so, cats began to be respected in Egypt. And the ancient Egyptians believed that cats are living incarnations of the goddess Bastet, as they were a sign of good luck. And cats are among the few animals that has received diplomatic immunity. In ancient Egypt, if someone kills a cat, even accidentally, the punishment would be death. And this reverence for cats mostly continues to this day. Like every animal so far, cats were also mummified, and the beloved pet cats of pharaohs were sometimes buried alongside them. While cats in ancient Egypt and in the modern world are respected animals and enjoy company with humans, another mammal that also starts with the letter C has not really been fortunate enough in today's world. Cattle, or cows as they are more commonly known, are one of livestock animals in the world, mostly used for labor, milk, and meat. The domestic cattle likely originated 10,000 years ago in Turkey and arrived in ancient Egypt by around 3000 BCE, where they were mostly used for plowing fields, milk, and currency. That's right, before Robux, Bitcoin, or whatever, cows were used as money and was regarded as the most valuable asset anyone can own. Owning multiple cows back then meant that you were well off, whereas today no one would give a shit if you own 500 cows. In Egyptian mythology, cows are often associated with the goddess of love, music, and joy, Hathor, often depicted as a cow herself or a woman with cow ears. And it was believed that sacrificing a cow and burying it with the dead would send them both into the afterlife, giving those dead people something to eat in the afterlife. If this is the case, then I just immediately think, does this work with every object? Can I mummify an iPhone to be buried alongside me, and so I can use it in the afterlife? I'm 99% sure if this works, then it's not gonna take long for some people to get well with this. Sir, someone has brought you something? Oh, what is it? A gift? Yeah, probably. Probably? Is it an intruder? Doesn't look like so. Just go outside and take a look at yourself if you want to. Sir? What? Okay, let's see this. What in the fuck? Excuse me, how did you bring that massive object here? I don't even know what that thing is. Is it a bullet or something? Oh, this? Yeah, it's an Airbus A340. What? What kind of name is that? Is that a cheat code? How did you bring that here? Yeah, long story short, I got this thing mummified and buried with me because... Okay, hold on. How would the actual Unfortunately, in most of the world that's not India, cows have lost their defined reputation. And in fact, today, we see them as just another farm animal whose sole purpose is to be eaten and milked by us. Alright, let's get all of the depressing stuff out of the way and get back to ancient Egypt, where there's another big, fat, aggressive, oily animal that lived in ancient Egypt. I'm talking about the hippopotamus, of course. I'm just gonna show you two hippos because of time. So hippos are the 5th most heaviest land mammals in the world and weighs up to 4,500 kilograms. Despite being heavier than a fucking car, hippos can run up to 30 kilometers an hour, which means the average human is absolutely cooked against a hippo. And every year they kill more people than lions, sharks, tigers, and Ted Bundys. And yeah, they lived in ancient Egypt as well. Their usual day jobs include attacking passerbyers, attacking livestock, destroying crops, and overall just causing a bunch of tomfoolery. Not even pharaohs were safe from their onslaught, as the first Egyptian pharaoh Narmer kindly demonstrated when he was allegedly killed by a hippo himself. And understandably, many Egyptians ended up despising hippos and began driving them out of Egypt. However, despite this, hippos actually managed to outlast the ancient Egyptians, with the last recorded sightings in Egypt during the 19th century, with it surviving empire after empire after empire after empire after empire after empire. However, not every large destructive being was this lucky, as is with elephants. Elephants have been present in ancient Egypt since the early Holocene, with the elephants in Egypt being a subspecies of the African elephant. And just like with hippos, the Egyptians despised them for unintentionally trampling their crops. And this trolling escapades actually still exists. I mean, just look at this elephant casually terrorizing a classroom in Botswana. And by the way, elephants are such a problem there that the government once threatened to send 20,000 elephants. And it was definitely a problem in ancient Egypt too. And so just like hippos, elephants were targeted and hunted by the Egyptians, so their crops can grow for once. And these targeted attacks often leads to population collapse, and so elephants became rarer in Egypt. Not helping them in the slightest is the fact they were being hunted for their precious ivory, which can fetch upwards of $1,000 per kilogram today. And also the fact that they were being used in war, most notably by Hannibal during the Second Punic Wars. And to add salt to their already miserable existence, when the Romans took Egypt, elephants were used in gladiatorial games and circuses, driving these poor elephants to extinction, and they have mostly all died off by the 4th century CE. See, sometimes if you want to defeat humans, you ironically need to be smaller than them, and also not worth dealing with. which was definitely the case for snakes, whose sometimes venomous bite makes it an absolute pain in the ass creature to deal with, especially in ancient Egypt, with venomous snakes like the cobra, viper, and pythons. Yet, the Egyptians have a habit of turning almost every animal that tries to kill them into deities. I mean, mad respect to them for having an absolute insane tolerance to nature's assassins, and the snake was no exception. Snakes were often associated and depicted with the Egyptian villain Apophis, who was the sworn enemy of Ra, and every night he had to fight off Apophis, who was probably just asleep. Snakes were also believed to be the protectors of those on their journey to the afterlife, showing that ancient Egyptians saw these creatures as protectors, yet very dangerous. So who were these snakes really protecting? Now, while most of the animals on this list were associated with either war or chaos or, I don't know, milk, this one was associated with knowledge. Ibises are a group of birds part of the taxonomic family Thresciornithidae. They typically eat stuff like crickets, fish, grain, mollusks, and so on, and they can be perfectly described as a half swan, half sickle. What does this have to do with knowledge? I don't know, but we're gonna focus on one certain species of ibises called African sacred ibis, because it's these ibises that ancient Egyptians find sacred, and also used to be found in ancient Egypt as well. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Commonly associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge, ibises were often used for offerings and sacrifices, and ancient Egyptians brought thousands of ibises to temples to be sacrificed as an offering to Thoth. So much in fact that an estimated 8 million ibises were sacrificed in all of ancient Egypt. And to sustain the common demand for ibises as offerings, many ibis breeding farms sprung up across Egypt. Such a horrible fate for a bird. How sad. And more sadly for the sacred ibises, their once numberful amount in Egypt began to decline, and due to other factors like habitat destruction and climate changes. And by 1850, there were no sacred ibises left in Egypt. However, they can still be found elsewhere in Africa. Speaking of Africa, Africa is also home to primates, not just humans shockingly, but also baboons. And the one we're gonna focus on are the Hamadryas baboons, who lives in what's now Eritrea and Yemen, but they also used to be widespread in Egypt, and with their social behavior and aggressiveness fascinated Egyptians, with the Hamadryas baboons in particular being associated with Babi, but other times baboons were associated with Thoth. That ibis god we just talked about. And in art, baboons were sometimes included in tomb paintings. Their role as guardians might have something to do with this. And other times, baboons were trained to catch the bad guys. Yeah, you're not escaping this. Today, however, baboons are rarely seen in Egypt due to reasons I already mentioned, but they haven't completely disappeared from Egypt, with small populations continuing to survive today. Alright, so the last ancient Egyptian animal on this list is the scarab beetle, known scientifically as Scarabaeus sacer, or sacred scarab. Scarab beetles are a species of dung beetles, you know, those mini shit collectors, and like other dung beetles, their role is to clean up dung or poop, which helps to recycle nutrients back into the soil. And the ancient Egyptians certainly took note of these beetles. In ancient Egypt, there were powerful symbols, commonly associated with good luck, rebirth, and with the god of sunrise, Khepri, whose day-to-day task of rolling the sun across the sky parallels with scarab beetles' day-to-day task of rolling dung across the earth. And so accordingly, they saw these beetles as sacred. Additionally, the Egyptians had a special amulet thingy, something, which in mummification is sometimes placed near the heart, so the heart cannot testify in the heart-weighing ceremony in the afterlife. Go to Aten Free Pass if you might. And with all of that, those are a detailed look at ancient Egyptian animals. Obviously there are more that I didn't mention, but I need to upload, alright? Anyways, thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe if you want more of these dumbass videos. And yeah, that's all. Bye.